I'm making an assumption that you now have a good conceptual feel of what metacognition and self-regulated learning is, and the benefits that, if we can get students to do this, what the benefits are for their attainment and learning opportunities. Now, a lot of people say, hold on a minute, we're talking about metacognition and cognition. What's this all about? What's different about it? Well, firstly, let's be clear about what cognitive strategies are. There is some confusion, again, in terminology, which often makes it difficult for people to get a very practical, concrete frame. But cognitive strategies are essentially thinking strategies, cognition and thinking pretty much the same stuff. And obviously we use these cognitive thinking strategies to learn better. So if you see the term learning strategies or thinking strategies or cognitive strategies, we're probably talking about the same type of animal. They're mental activities, operations, and we do these so that we can learn stuff or solve problems that involve learning stuff. They may involve physical tools such as mind mapping. Mind mapping is very popular, very effective if done properly, cognitive thinking, learning strategy, because it enables us to get a lot of information on one sheet of paper. So it helps our memory, it reduces cognitive load, it shows relationship between things, and it helps the process of understanding. But ultimately, a good mind map can do this if a person is thinking well, but if they're not thinking well and the mind map's a mess, it's all a mess. So, as Ormrod states, ultimately, these strategies are about the things we do inside our head. In other words, thinking. Let's have an example. Mind mapping. Well, I gave you an advanced organizer just now, didn't I? So, just have a little read of that just to reinforce what I said earlier. Are you thinking? Okay. Again, if you've got a toolbox and you've got a lot of tools in it, are the tools effective or not? Well, it depends on the purpose. If you want to hang a picture on a wall, you're probably looking at the drill followed by a screwdriver, I think. As compared to cutting up a thick plank of wood. It'd be silly to do that with a screwdriver. So in terms of using these cognitive thinking learning strategies, very important to be clear about the learning tasks. And students need to know this because they need to be able to choose the right strategy for what they're trying to do at a point in time. Are they trying to organize a lot of information they've got to make sense of it, to summarize it, reduce cognitive load, and then eventually to put it into memory? So there's an organizing strategy, then there's various types of rehearsal and review strategies, etc. Same thing with the skill. You've got to think about, well, what's going to develop this skill effectively and efficiently. So different strategies useful for different learning purposes. I'm going to illustrate that in the next two slides. I'm not going to read through them because you can download that and we're going to look at this in more detail in another episode. But here you go. It's an advanced organizer for you. As you can see, there's some strategies here on the left, how to use them, when to use them, and what the purpose. So if we're going to teach students to be metacognitive, part of that is to manage their cognition as well as their affect, emotions, and actual behavior. So these are cognitive learning strategies. Some of them, if you look there, are also metacognitive strategies. So you can download these slides and you can digest them. As I said, we're going to look at them in more detail when we look at the overall strategies for enhancing metacognition. And the last slide. What's the distinction between a cognitive strategy and a metacognitive strategy? Nice, easy answer if you can live with a bit of grey. And it's obvious that they're not totally separative because it's all part of the overall consciousness process, however you want to define that. So if I'm being metacognitive, I'm thinking more as a kind of overview. If I'm using a cognitive strategy, I'm using my mind in a particular way, a particular type of thinking to meet a particular type of objective. So don't get too caught up in the differences, but know what the focus is. And here's the summary for you. It relates to the goal or purpose of the task in hand. So, cognitive strategies are focusing, as I indicated, that It's about a particular task: organizing, classifying, summarizing information, transfer, working to long-term memory. Whereas the metacognition, as the word implies, meta, more overall monitoring of stuff. So when you're being metacognitive, you are looking at the quality of the overall process, and that will include the specific aspects. So if I'm being metacognitive about my learning, I'm thinking about my thinking, I'm thinking about the strategies I'm learning for what I need to learn at a particular phase of working towards my learning goal. I'm also thinking about, are my beliefs, emotions interfering with the learning process in some way? Big point, and I do want you to ponder on this. It's a big advanced organizer for, I think, episode 4. This is the big goal. Why are we learning about metacognition and self-regulated learning? It's because if students develop this capability, they will learn better, maybe also feel better about themselves in terms of well-being, because they're being more successful and perhaps they're making better decisions in their life. So, the major pedagogic goal: teach our students to develop and use their metacognitive capability. Yes, and if they can do this, to effectively select, use and evaluate appropriate cognitive strategies, learning strategies, for meeting their learning goals in different situations. So that green bit there is something you really need to get into your long-term memory system, because that's the big, as Wiggins and McTighe would refer to as, a big essential question.